parents asked, "So this is goodbye?" And I said, "No, this is me finally choosing something better than surviving." For a second, nobody moves. The words are still hanging in the air between us like smoke, impossible to grab back. My dad's hand freezes on the doorknob. My mom's mascara-smudged eyes flick down to the suitcase by my feet like she's seeing it for the first time, like it didn't take me all morning to pack it in the bedroom at the end of their hallway. I feel the house around us pressing in. Stale carpet cleaner, the faint smell of burnt toast, the grandfather clock ticking way too loud in the living room. My heartbeat is doing that weird thudding in my throat thing, but my voice came out steady, almost annoyingly calm. My fingers curl tighter around my car keys until the metal edges bite into my palm. It was a Sunday afternoon when I finally went back to the house to tell them I was done pretending. Not done forever, maybe. I don't know. I'm not making big cinematic declarations like, "I'll never see you again." Life is messier than that. But I knew, driving over, that I couldn't keep doing whatever we'd been doing. Me visiting out of obligation, sitting at this same doorway being emotionally sandblasted and then told I was lucky to have parents at all. I'm 30 now, old enough to know that the anxiety that twists my stomach into knots whenever my phone lights up with Mom and Dad isn't just me being too sensitive. Old enough to see the difference between living and clinging on. Better than surviving? My mom repeats slowly, like the phrase offended her taste. Her voice has that high, brittle edge it gets right before she either cries or explodes. We gave you a home, clothes, food. We worked our fingers to the bone so you could have everything we didn't. And now you're acting like we abused me? I supply when she chokes on the word. I don't raise my voice. I don't have to. Just saying it out loud is loud enough. My dad's jaw tightens. "We disciplined you," he says. His tone is flat, rehearsed. "Kids these days think everything is abuse. You had a roof over your head. You never went hungry. You also never asked why I slept with my shoes on for years, just in case I needed to run out of the house at night. But sure, let's list the groceries." "I know," I say. "I know you worked. I know you paid bills. I'm not saying you failed at buying things. I'm saying you failed at being safe." My mom takes a step toward me, then stops halfway, like she's hit an invisible fence. "We're your parents," she says. "You don't get to just walk away." I look at her, at the familiar pattern of lines between her brows, at the way her hands are wringing the dish towel she still has from making lunch. There's a weird hollow spot in my chest where, for most of my life, the urge to appease her lived. It's quieter now, not gone, but not driving. "I'm not walking away," I say. "I'm walking towards something better." "There's a difference," she scoffs. "And what's better than family?" Funny she asks because the list is long. I grew up on a cul-de-sac in a suburb that prides itself on being family-friendly. Neat lawns, basketball hoops and driveways, kids biking in packs and scattering when the streetlights flickered on. From the outside, our house fit right in. Cream siding, a maple tree in the front yard, one of those decorative flags that my mom changed for every season. Inside, it was a little more complicated. My earliest memory of really understanding that is the dinner when I was about 6. I knocked over my cup of milk reaching for the salt. It spilled across the table and dripped onto the floor in slow, fat drops. I froze, hands still in midair. My mom's chair screeched back. "Look what you've done," she snapped, snatching up her napkin and pressing it down on the puddle like she was trying to strangle it. "You can't go one meal without making a mess, can you?" "I'm sorry," I whispered, cheeks burning. I could feel every eye on me, Dad's, my older brothers, my little sisters. "You're always sorry," she said. "Sorry doesn't clean the floor, does it?" My brother smirked. "Clumsy," he muttered, just loud enough. Dad kept eating, eyes on his plate, like my humiliation was background noise. It was small. It was just milk. But it set a pattern. Mistakes were catastrophes. Emotions were inconveniences. Apologies were never quite enough. As we got older, the rules expanded. We didn't speak unless spoken to at the dinner table. We didn't talk back, which included things like asking, "Can you please not yell?" We didn't say no to favors, even if we were exhausted or had homework. Discipline wasn't one thing. It was a whole climate. My mom's voice could go from normal to ice in a second. My dad's anger didn't explode often, but when it did, it was like a door slamming and the sound never really stopped echoing. They loved us, sure. There were moments. Movie nights on the couch, family trips to the beach, my mom sitting in the front row at my school play with a camcorder, my dad teaching me how to parallel park. Those memories are real. They don't cancel out the others. They sit next to them, which honestly is more confusing. When I try to explain this to people, they want to sort my parents into categories, good or bad, loving or cruel. But the truth is, they were both. And they never wanted to look at the cruel parts. The first time I used the word surviving about my family was in therapy. I'd started going because my partner, Jamie, said gently one night, "Hey, you have a panic attack every time your mom calls. That doesn't seem normal." Jamie's family calls just to chat. They have group photos where everyone looks genuinely happy, not like they're bracing for the flash. At first, I thought Jamie was exaggerating. I told myself everyone's mom made them feel sick when their name popped up on the screen. The therapist, Dr. Q, asked me to describe what happens in my body when my parents call. I told her. My stomach drops, my hands go numb, my chest tightens. My brain starts flicking through a highlight reel of all the times I've been caught doing something wrong when they contacted me out of the blue. "That sounds like your nervous system going into survival mode," she said. I laughed because the phrase sounded dramatic. Survival, to me, meant war zones or natural disasters, not getting a phone call from your parents. But the more I talked, the more it fit. I wasn't thinking, how can I connect with them? I was thinking, how do I get through this with the least amount of damage? It showed up in other ways too. At work, if my manager asked, "Can you come into my office for a minute?" I'd immediately assume I was in trouble, even with a spotless record. Even if 2 minutes later he was just asking if I wanted to take the lead on a new project, I'd spend the rest of the day waiting for the other shoe to drop. In relationships, I'd apologize constantly. Sorry for taking up space. Sorry for asking for help. Sorry, you don't have to do that. Jamie started replying with, "What are you apologizing for?" And half the time, I couldn't answer. It was just an instinct, like ducking when someone raised a hand. At family gatherings, it was worse. My parents have this talent for making every conversation a referendum on how grateful we are. If I mentioned being tired, my dad would say, "You think you're tired? When I was your age, I worked 60 hours a week and still came home to fix the car." If I talked about therapy, my mom rolled her eyes and said, "We didn't have that nonsense growing up. We just got on with it." The last Christmas I went to their house before everything blew up. My mom pulled me aside in the kitchen while I was stirring gravy. Voices from the living room drifted in. My siblings laughing, the TV playing some loud movie. The smell of turkey and cloves was so thick it made my head foggy. "You've been very distant this year," she said, not looking at me, pulling a pan from the oven. "Are we that terrible?" Her tone was light, teasing, but I heard the hook in it. I always heard the hook. "We've talked about why I needed space," I said carefully. "The yelling, the names. I need time." She slammed the pan down harder than she needed to. "So we're monsters now," she said. "I didn't say that." "You don't have to," she snapped. "You act like we did everything wrong, like we didn't sacrifice for you. You owe us some respect." Respect, in my parents' dictionary, means silence, means swallowing the hurt so they don't have to see it. That night, in the guest room, I lay awake listening to the house creak. Jamie was next to me, scrolling on their phone. "You okay?" they whispered. "I feel like I'm going backwards," I said. "Like all the work I've done in therapy disappears as soon as I walk through that door." Jamie put their phone down and traced circles on the back of my hand with their thumb. "Then maybe you don't walk through it for a while," they said. "You're allowed to protect yourself." It sounds obvious when someone else says it. It did not feel obvious to me. Not when the story inside my head was, "They fed you. They clothed you. You're lucky." But Dr. Q kept asking, what if both things are true? What if they provided for you and hurt you? What do you do with that? First, what I did was try to fix it. I wrote a long email explaining my feelings, carefully worded so it wouldn't sound like an attack. I didn't use the word abuse once. I didn't bring up every incident, just a few patterns. I said I wanted a different relationship with them, one where I could say, that hurt me, and they wouldn't call me ungrateful. My dad replied with a 2-line message. Your mother is crying. Are you happy now? My mom wrote, we did our best. We're sorry if your memory is different. Let's just move on from this. Sorry if your memory is different. Not sorry for what they did. Sorry for my perception. I didn't respond. For weeks, months, I answered the occasional practical text. When is your sister's graduation? Can you send that recipe? But I stopped going over. I stopped picking up the phone if I didn't have the emotional bandwidth for the fallout. I started noticing how my life felt when I wasn't constantly bracing for impact. I went for walks in the park without checking my phone 100 times. I started saying yes to last-minute dinners with friends because I knew I wouldn't get guilt-tripped for not visiting that weekend. The ugly knot in my chest loosened, just a little. Then, a few weeks ago, my dad called while I was on my lunch break. I let it go to voicemail. He called again and again. Finally, he texted, emergency, call back. My heart lurched. I called, already picturing hospitals, accidents. The emergency was that my aunt, Mom's sister, had told them she'd seen me out with Jamie and some friends, laughing and acting like nothing was wrong. Dad's voice crackled through the line. Your mother is sick over this, he said. She thinks you hate her. I don't hate you, I said automatically, staring at the half-eaten sandwich on my desk. But you're punishing us, he said. We're your parents. We're not going to be around forever. You want to waste time sulking? I'm not sulking, I said. I'm taking space because every time I try to talk about how I feel, you dismiss it or turn it around on me. I can't keep doing that. There was a pause. I heard my mom's voice faintly in the background, urgent and fast. Dad sighed. She wants to see you, he said, face to face. Talk this out. Can you at least do that? We just want our family back. Those words, our family back, hit that old bruise inside me. That little kid part that still, somehow wanted them to look at me and say, we're sorry, we'll do better. So I agreed. The time was set. Sunday noon at the house. The morning of, I woke up feeling like I had swallowed a swarm of bees. Jamie made me toast I couldn't eat. You don't owe them a performance, Jamie said as I tied my shoes with clumsy fingers. You don't have to convince them. Just say what's true for you. What if they get mad? I asked. They probably will, Jamie said. And you'll still be okay. That was the part one wasn't used to, that someone could be furious with me and I wouldn't disintegrate. I drove over alone. I wanted Jamie there, but my parents already blamed therapy and my relationship for changing me. I didn't have the energy for that deflection. The house looked the same as ever. Same maple tree, taller now. Same crack in the front step Dad always said he'd fix. As I walked up the drive, my key felt heavy in my pocket. This little piece of metal that had, for so long, meant I had to be available whenever they wanted. Inside, the air conditioner hummed. Mom was in the kitchen, arms crossed, a dish towel clutched in one hand like a stress ball. Dad was at the table, arms folded, his face arranged in that same stoic mask he wore at funerals. We did small talk for about 30 seconds. Then Mom blurted, "So this is about that email." I almost laughed. That email, the one I'd poured my heart into and agonized over. "Yes," I said, "and everything around it." "Look," I took a breath. My palms were damp. "I didn't stop coming around to punish you. I stopped coming because being here makes me feel small, unseen, like I'm constantly walking into a test I didn't study for." Mom's jaw clenched. "We treated you like all the other kids," she said. "I know," I said. "That doesn't mean it didn't hurt. I'm not saying you're cartoon villains. I'm saying I grew up scared of you. I'm saying being screamed at and slapped and called names wasn't normal. It affected me. I have panic attacks. I jump when people raise their voices. That came from somewhere. Dad snorted. Everyone gets smacked once in a while. You turned out fine. I felt my hands shake. I pressed them flat on my thighs. I did not turn out fine, I said. I turned out anxious and depressed and thinking love means constantly trying not to make someone angry. I'm working on it. But I can't work on it while pretending everything between us is okay. Mom's eyes got shiny. We did our best, she whispered. You don't know how hard it was. Your father working 2 jobs. Me dealing with everything at home. We never had anyone. No therapy, no help. We did what we knew. I believe that, I said quietly. I do. I believe you didn't wake up thinking, how can I mess up my kids? But intention doesn't erase impact. If you want things to be different now, you have to be willing to look at what happened. Is this your therapist talking? Dad cut in. Planting ideas in your head? I almost laughed again, because it sounded so ridiculous. No, I said. She's just the first person who didn't tell me I was overreacting. Mom shook her head, tears starting to spill. So what, you want us to grovel? To say we were horrible? We're your parents. We're old. We can't go back and change anything. I don't want you to grovel, I said. I want you to say, we're sorry we hurt you. We want to understand what you went through now. I want you to stop pretending it was all fine. Dad stood up, chair scraping. We're never going to see it the way you do, he said. We gave you everything. You can either accept that and move on, or you can keep tearing this family apart. My heart gave that sick little lurch it always does when he stands like that, looming. But I noticed something new too. My feet didn't move. I didn't shrink. I just stayed where I was. Then I have to protect myself, I said. My voice shook a little, but it stayed steady enough. I can't keep walking into the same wall and hoping it feels like a hug this time. That's when Mom said it. So this is goodbye? There was so much packed into those 4 words. Accusation, guilt, drama. The implication that I was killing something, that I was the one ending it, that my boundaries were an act of violence. And that's when the words came out of me, almost before I could think them. No, I said. This is me finally choosing something better than surviving. The rest played out in echoes. Mom crying, saying I'd broken her heart. Dad accusing me of being brainwashed, ungrateful, selfish. Me saying over and over, I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing it so I can live. At some point, I took my key out of my pocket and set it on the entryway table. It made a tiny metallic sound, completely out of proportion to how heavy it felt. You keep that, I said. If things change, really change, we can talk. But I can't keep coming back the way things are. Now we're back at the present, the doorway, my suitcase by my feet. My parents staring at me like I've just announced I'm moving to another planet. You'll regret this, Dad says finally. Same line as always, like it's written on the inside of his eyelids. When we're dead and gone, you'll wish you'd been kinder. Maybe. I don't know the future. Maybe I'll sit in a pew one day and sob with regret. Maybe I won't. What I know is that I have already spent decades being kinder to them than they ever were to me. Kinder to their feelings than to myself. I lift my suitcase handle. Clicks into place. My hand is shaking, but the motion feels right. I hope you find peace, I say, and I mean it. I really do, but I have to go find mine. I walk out before they can answer. The air outside is sharper, cooler. My chest hurts, but it's the ache you get after taking a deep breath for the first time in a long time. I sit in my car, hands on the wheel. My phone buzzes. A text from Jamie. Breathing? I let out something between a laugh and a sob. Yeah. Hurts. But yeah. I start the engine. In the rearview mirror, I can see the house. Curtains still, door closed. It looks exactly the same as it always has. I'm the one who's different. Driving away doesn't feel like escaping a burning building. Exactly. It feels like stepping out of a basement I'd convinced myself was the whole world. Parents asked, so this is goodbye? Maybe from their version of family it is. From the script where I play the grateful child who absorbs every blow and thanks them for the lesson. From the story where surviving is the highest goal. For me, it's hello to something else. To therapy appointments where I don't lie. To dinners with friends where raised voices mean laughing, not danger. To days when my phone rings and my first thought isn't, what did I do wrong? I don't know what that life looks like yet, but for the first time I've chosen to find out.